Hi everyone, I'm Eleanor. Welcome or welcome back. Today is the 12th day of the Sealy Challenge and I'm pretty tired. I'm also not at home today, so excuse the strange lighting. Today I'd like to talk about a book by Danez Smith called Homie. I first came across Danez Smith in, I think, 2015 probably. I was looking through the Poets House website, Poets House in Manhattan, and I saw a picture of what was the dark, I'm just checking, what was it called? The Dark Noise Collective. It was six young poets who were posing like bosses. And one of them was Danez Smith and one was Franny Choi. There's four others. I'll leave a link so you can find out more. And lo and behold, 7 years later, here they both are, making a big name for themselves in the American poetry community and beyond. Danez Smith is non-binary, so they are a Black American, and they are also open about being HIV positive. And this book is about their experience of friendship and community within the poetry world and moving out in wider and wider circles. And I realize now that what attracted me to that photo of the Dark Noise Collective back in 2015 was absolutely this sense that they were part of a community, a circle of friendship, of like-minded young people who were really into poetry. They describe themselves as a nationwide, multiracial, multi-genre collective. So all these years later, Danez Smith sits down and they decide to write this fantastic homage, an entire book about friends. This book has a very specific audience. It is absolutely not me. I'm white, I'm Australian. That being said, I very much enjoyed getting a glimpse at the beautiful connections that Danez Smith has made, and it's brought joy to me as I read it as well. I think when we talk about poetry, we often forget that fundamentally it's about a community, and it is about friendship. It's not about sitting in your room alone and writing. It's about having people around you. I think back to what I read about the New York poets and the way they enjoyed spending time together. I think back to the friendship, for example, between Elizabeth Bishop and Robert Lowell that has been documented in a book that is this thick and has all of their letters to each other in it. A true friendship of like-minded poets. Then, even recently, I came across a really joyful friendship that was documented in Shane McCrae's latest book of poetry. I can leave a link to it, or you can find it. I don't have that many videos. I think I did it maybe a week ago. I discussed it. He has a couple of poems in his latest book about and dedicated to another poet, Lucy Brock-Broido, who died a few years ago, and he's still grieving her loss. In another way, these friendships and communities of poets, to me, are fascinating because because I love poetry, they're my celebrities. You know, I don't follow the Kardashians. I don't really follow musicians very much, but I do follow my poets. And I love to get a feel of what other poets they're friends with. Danez Smith, they go through this book naming a lot of the friends, describing friends from the past, and then they bring family in. And then they bring everyone randomly in the street in. And of course they discuss the difficulties of some friendships, especially when you're remembering things you may have done wrong in the past. They bring up suicide and the loss of a friend. They bring up their own fear of death with HIV and their own struggle with suicide. It's in many ways a heavy book, but their language is always so buoyant. You feel like you're constantly floating above any possible negatives, any possible hardships that occur. Danez Smith, much like Franny Choi, from what I can tell, have an ability to combine the spoken word with the poetry on the page, and are equally good at both, which is very interesting and very exciting. And I'd like to finally come back to the idea of who Danez Smith, who they're writing for. In an article in The Guardian, Danez Smith mentions that they didn't write this book for white people, but they wrote it for their homies. I love that. Not only because historically queer Black poets have been sidelined and their readers have been ignored. Not only because of that, but because many poets don't seem to have an idea of who their target audience is. Who do you want to read your poems? And what do you think the outcome of your poems might be? There's an urgency to homie, and it's an urgency of joyfulness. It's an urgency of friendship. It's a desire to communicate beyond your own circle to other like-minded people about a similar experience you've all had. And when you think about it, that's really what poetry does when it's most successful. So on that note, I'll end today, and I look forward to tomorrow's book. Thank you for playing along. Please remember that the only real property is the property of the mind, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you. Bye-bye.